Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I'm your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. This week, I got DM'd by a person on my personal account asking me to talk about jealousy, envy, comparison, things of that nature. And, I get a lot of DMs asking about different topics and stuff, but this one really struck a chord with me because this person was extremely vulnerable with how they are dealing with envy and jealousy with another person in their life, and just how it's kind of clouded their judgment a little bit. And it just made me kind of reflect on my life and how easy it is to fall into that trap of constantly, comparing your journey and your life to other people's, and I think, it's important for us to kind of talk about that, navigate and help come to an understanding for yourself, for myself, that can help us kind of reframe the way we look at, jealousy, comparison, envy, and those things, right? I think the first thing that you really, really have to understand is that you are a one of one. Like, you actually are a one of one. You're not, you were not put here to constantly compare yourself to other people, feeling like you're not good enough until you reach the level of somebody else, or until you do what somebody else has done. That is backwards. You are a one of one, and you have a special calling on your life. The challenge is figuring out what that is and staying true to that path. And in a world full of social media and just a constant pressure from external things to make us compete and compare, it's very hard to stay true to your own journey. So let's dive into some things that we can do to help us, understand, where it's coming from and how we can reframe jealousy, envy, and comparison and start to live authentically in our own unique path. I think the first thing is that you have to understand that envy and jealousy in itself is an emotion, right? An emotion is coming from something within ourselves. And a lot of times, I really try to tell people not to be so quick to judge your emotions. I think a lot of times when we feel envious or we feel jealousy, we immediately correlate that with something bad going on within ourselves, and it makes us feel even worse, right? Your emotions are there to guide you and to help you understand yourself on a deeper level, right? When I first started out, wanting to create content and kind of wanting to go down this journey, and I was not really clear on who I was and kind of what my gifts were and things of that nature, I was constantly looking at other people. I was constantly comparing myself and falling into that trap of jealousy a little bit, or just feeling like my journey was less than, or I was less than, my worth I wasn't going to be worth anything until I reached a certain level that I was gauging based off of other people's lives, right? And the first thing I realized is that you have to first acknowledge that you're feeling that way. I think a lot of people try to neglect that they're feeling envy or jealousy, or they're falling into the trap of comparison. And when you neglect your emotions, all you're doing is suppressing that feeling, and it's actually causing more compound interest in the long term, right? So you not acknowledging that you're feeling that way is just going to create even more jealousy, even more envy, even more comparison, right? So the first step is acknowledging that I'm feeling this way. Now, here's the challenge. This is why working on the relationship you have with your emotions is so important, because you have to be able to sit with yourself and acknowledge what you feel, and then be able to transmute that emotion into something else, right? So one thing I learned was, okay, every time I feel jealousy or envy, I need to challenge that emotion with practicing gratitude for what I do have, and also finding inspiration and admiring other people's journeys, right? So if you feel the urge to be like, man, like, I wish I was somebody else, or man, they're lucky, or man, if I'm not going to be good enough till I do that, that's where you have to have a real conversation with yourself and challenge, those emotions, and say, you know what? Nah, but they're doing their own thing, and I know I can find that for myself. Or, you know what? I can use this energy of or this emotion of envy and jealousy, and actually put it into something that helps me, uplift me, and something like that, right? And right there, you're already taking the power away from that jealousy and envy and putting it to something that is helping you rather than hurting you. What most people do is when they feel those emotions, it makes them feel even worse, and they act out of the state that they feel, right? So envy and jealousy come from very low vibrational things. So when you feel envy and jealousy and you fall into that trap of comparison, it makes us feel worse. And because we're in that state of feeling worse, it causes us to do more things that make us feel worse because now we're operating from that space, if that makes sense. So when you feel that way, the challenge is to acknowledge that you're feeling that way and then work on deciding to do a different action. And what that's going to do is it's going to show your emotions that, this feeling of envy and jealousy is just coming from a place of wanting to be better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that energy and put it towards things that are making me better. And right there, it turns from envy to inspiration, because when you're inspired by somebody, it's not necessarily what they're saying, it's more what they're doing and the energy that they're cultivating. And it inspires you to do the same for your life, right? Rather than feeling like, man, they're just blessed, or I'm not going to be good enough until I do exactly what they're doing. That is a lie, and it's a deceit that a lot of us fall into the trap of, and I'm speaking from experience. One thing you have to also realize is that you will never find peace chasing after somebody else's gift. You will never find peace chasing after somebody else's gift. Each and every one of us has a unique gift or gifts that we were given. God can only work with you with the gifts that you were given. So if you are constantly chasing after this picture of somebody else's gifts or this life of somebody else's gifts, you're always going to feel like you're not enough. You're always going to feel like things aren't going your way. You're always going to feel that stress and discontent within yourself, right? And so that's why it's really so important to be able to have awareness that you're doing those things, because if you don't have the awareness that you're falling into that trap of comparison, it will take you down a deep, dark road, and then you reach certain points later in life, and all these things that you were chasing after aren't bringing you the sense of fulfillment or the joy or the peace that you thought it once would, right? And that leaves us with that feeling of despair and hopelessness and resentment. Now you get resentful towards the people that you were pursuing or the things that you were pursuing because you thought that their life or what they were doing would bring you that sense of peace or joy, and it didn't. And now you get resentful. Now you think, man, I guess they're just blessed and I'm not good enough. But that's a lie. It's a lie, and it's not the truth. And so that's where we always go back to the base of, you have to really go down that journey of building the relationship with yourself, figuring out who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll never know what your gifts are. The only way to understand your gifts is to look within yourself and to start going down that inner journey. That's not easy to do, but it is necessary. It is necessary, right? Right? It says shift your perspective. When you catch yourself comparing, reframe it as inspiration instead of competition. Let others' successes show you what's possible. That's beautiful, right? Every time you feel that urge to compare or to compete, that is where you bring awareness, and then you reframe it to inspiration. No, I'm looking at this person's life, and this is showing me that it's possible for me to live a life of fulfillment, joy, and authenticity, right? It's possible, right? And you have to train yourself to believe it, right? A belief is something you have to train. It's not something that just happens like that, right? The reason you believe certain things that you believe, or these limiting beliefs that you believe, is because you have been programmed and conditioned for a long period of time growing up to believe these things. So it's the same. If you want to really, really believe that you can live a life of authenticity and fulfillment, it's going to take practice at believing that thought and that vision within yourself. Right? And you have to be willing to embrace the discomfort of not believing it, with the understanding that if I just keep on taking it day by day, step by step, right? Taking it one step at a time, eventually the tide will shift. And that limiting belief will turn to a limitless belief. And now you'll feel like you can do anything. But it took you having the courage to acknowledge and feel those emotions of the envy, of the jealousy, of the comparison, right? A lot of times our emotions are guides to lean into to help us to get to the places that we want to be. But because we have such negative relationships with our emotions, anytime we feel these things, we think something's wrong, and then we go try to run away or we neglect them, right? The more you neglect your emotions, the more you are creating emotional stress, right? And that's the feeling you get of anxiety or competition or feeling like you have to rush everything rather than understanding you're on your own unique journey, on your own unique timeline, and you have your own unique gifts, right? And how that's going to cultivate in your life is going to be on its own unique divine timing for you, right? So often we're constantly, looking at TV or social media or entertainment and all these things, and it's just making us rush everything. And when you're constantly rushing and thinking and trying to do all these things, you're never going to get the clarity of what you actually should be doing, because what you actually should be doing is going to come from an emotional pull in a certain direction, if that makes sense, right? So if you're constantly rushing and neglecting your emotions, you're never going to have the clarity of the direction you need to actually go in, because your emotions are there to guide you into the direction you should be going. When you feel envy and fear, you need to learn how to lean into that and turn that into inspiration and admiration. But what we do is when we feel envy, jealousy, and fear, right, we try to cope with all these external things to neglect that feeling, right? And that's what makes us feel so worthless. If you're constantly neglecting the energy that you have within yourself, how do you think that's going to make you feel? Worthless. It's not going to make you feel good by any means, right? But that's what we do constantly, every single day. People are constantly neglecting their emotions, which are energy and motion. So they're neglecting their energy in pursuit of all these external things that will never fulfill the things that are within themselves, because they're external, right? External things can help facilitate the internal, but if you're trying to find the internal and the external right there, even just hearing that out loud, you can see how that's a recipe for confusion, for lack, for scarcity, for worthlessness, for feeling not good enough, right? So sometimes you just got to take a step back, right? Maybe you got to take a break from social media. Maybe you got to step away from certain friends where you've been constantly gossiping or complaining or focusing on the lack of your life, right? Maybe you just got to take some time away from whatever you've been indulging in. You just got to sit with yourself a little bit and be still and feel those emotions. Like, honestly, you got to feel those emotions. There's a saying, they say, until you feel it, you can't heal it. How many of us are constantly chasing after external things to heal something that the only way we can heal is to feel it? But we chase after these things because we don't want to feel it, right? And all we're doing is attaching ourselves to all these external things. And what it's causing is it's a suppression of emotions. And that's what creates the feelings of depression and anxiety and hopelessness and not feeling worthy, right? But you are worthy. You absolutely are. It's just going to take time, consistency, and commitment to that journey, right? Make a commitment to yourself. Above all else, make a commitment to yourself that you're going to show up for you every day, that you're going to make sure that you have your own back, right? Because if you're constantly neglecting yourself, how could you expect anything in the external world to accept you? It's not. And you're just going to fall into this rat race of constantly chasing after external validation to fill a void that can only be filled from within yourself, right? And I'm not saying that from an entitlement or an ego standpoint. I'm not saying like you got to put your chest up and try to do everything yourself. That's not what I'm saying by any means. But you have to learn how to go within yourself because, like it says in the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within you. If you don't learn how to tap into the beauty and uniqueness that you have within yourself, you'll never be able to fully operate in your most truest, authentic self, right? We talked about it on the last podcast, that Buddha said attachment is the root of all suffering. When you are constantly attaching yourself to all these external things, trying to find fulfillment, when fulfillment can only be cultivated within yourself, what do you think that's a recipe for? Feeling lost, confused, stressed, and not worthy, right? So, yes. One thing that you really should do, right, is every time you feel those emotions or let's say you're on social media, right, and you feel yourself becoming jealous or resentful of somebody else's journey, challenge it by celebrating them. Challenge that thought and that emotion by celebrating them. I remember when, I was really starting off with this journey and I had all those fears and insecurities come up. And a lot of times envy and jealousy and comparison comes from the root of insecurity within ourselves. I remember I was feeling all these things, and one of the things I had to actively do on a day-to-day basis was every time I felt that jealousy or that envy or that trap of comparison, towards somebody or something, I challenged myself to start to find something to celebrate within that person or in that thing. I challenged myself to do that every day, right? And you're slowly taking the power away from those emotions and putting that energy into something that is actually giving you life back, right? Because collaborating and celebrating other people and finding joy in other people's journey is only going to bring you back those emotions, right? But if you're constantly comparing, you're constantly falling into the trap of feeling jealous or envy of somebody else's journey, you're constantly feeling resentful of somebody else's platform or influence, man, what emotions or feelings do you think that's going to, bring back within yourself? It's not a recipe for fulfillment, joy, peace, or love by any means. And it comes from a place of being rooted in ego, because your ego feels like there's limited amount of seats at the table, when in reality, love is infinite. Love is abundant. There is a seat for everybody at the table. So this idea that success is only for a few and not for everybody is completely backwards. You need to understand there is a seat for everybody at the table. And that's why it says that your gifts make room for you. Because when you're operating in your unique, authentic self, that in itself will create room for you in the world. But when you're constantly pursuing somebody else's life or somebody else's path, that's what creates the feeling of scarcity and lack and limit and seats being limited, right? When it's not. Of course, it's gonna feel limited when you're chasing after something that you're not meant for. There is no seat for you down that path, so you chasing after it is gonna make you start to rush and feel like, oh, I gotta hurry up and do this, I gotta do that, and if I don't hurry up, then my chance is gonna be over. That's all ego, right? And here's the thing about ego. We gotta change this concept of ego death. It's not about killing your ego completely. It's about learning how to have a healthy relationship with your ego, because your ego is not inherently bad. It's the way that our relationship to it transmutes into our life, right? Because, just keep it simple. And I'm gonna let y'all kind of go do your own curiosity with that concept of it's not about an ego death. It's about an ego shift, right? It is not about an ego death. It's about an ego shift. Killing any part of yourself is inherently against what we were made to do, or we were made to go down that inner journey and figure out all parts of ourselves and then learn how to have healthy relationships with all of them so that they work in unison for the betterment of our unique path. But when you're constantly trying to kill a certain part of yourself, it puts you into this state of fear, of competitiveness, of scarcity, of rushing, of trying to find answers to things that don't need answers, so just be mindful of that. They say where your focus goes, energy grows, right? Where your focus goes, energy follows. If you are constantly focusing on other people's life, other people's journey, other people's path, what do you think you are giving energy to in your life? You're feeding those emotions of jealousy, envy, and comparison, right? But the beautiful thing about emotions are energy in motion. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It's meant to be transmuted. So you can take that same energy that's being transmuted into envy, jealousy, resentment, and comparison. You could take that same energy and transmute it into your own unique journey. And that's when inspiration arises. That's when admiration arises. That's when the want to collaborate with people rather than compete with people arises. That's when you move into the energy of love rather than lack and fear, right? And that's a beautiful thing, knowing that these emotions aren't inherently bad. It's about how are we letting them cultivate within ourselves, and how is that expressing in our physical reality, right? Because if you constantly feel like things aren't going your way, if you constantly feel lack, if you constantly feel like you have to rush life, if you constantly feel like you have to chase after this external picture, then you need to look within yourself and see, what's happening to those emotions to make you feel that way, right? It's not the emotion, it's the way that we're allowing them to cultivate. Because that same emotion of envy can turn into inspiration. And I'm a living proof of that. I remember at the beginning, this same feeling, right, that was leading me to be envy. I took that energy back and I transmuted it into my own unique journey and the things that I had control over. And it started to breed this feeling of inspiration. It started to breed this feeling of creativity and uniqueness and understanding I am a one of one. And there is nobody like me, but that is the point of life. The fact there's nobody like you in the world. So when you operate in your most truest, authentic self, that is how you help the world in the best way possible, right? You have to think of every single person as a piece to a bigger puzzle, right? If everybody's trying to be the same piece, we're not building the puzzle, right? We're creating stress. We're creating anxiety. We're creating competition. We're creating this false illusion that, oh my gosh, like if this person gets in that spot, then that's a less chance for me getting into that spot. Yeah, because we all think we're the same shape. But when you understand that this puzzle is full of all of us as unique individuals and we all bring a different shape and size to this puzzle, and if we learn how to cultivate that in itself will create room, your life going to change. Your life going to change, man. It's going to be a beautiful thing because now you're not going to feel like you got to rush after things or compete against everybody all the time. The biggest person you have to compete against is yourself, right? The biggest person you have to compete against is yourself. If you really think that the people around you are your biggest competition, you're being deceived by your ego. Your ego wants you to think that so it doesn't, so it has control over you, right? So it has control over you. But when you realize that the biggest person that you're ever going to have to, or the number one person you're going to have to compete against is yourself, it's going to change your mindset. It's going to change your perspective on life, right? So yeah, it's going to change your perspective on life. This is why working on the relationship you have with yourself is so important, because you have to learn how to develop self-compassion. If you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, every time you have an emotion of envy, jealousy, or fear, or comparison, you're going to feel like you're doing something wrong, and then you're going to beat yourself up about it. And the only way to fix you beating yourself up about it is continue to chase after these external things that you think is going to help you with the internal problem, but it's not. It's not. You have to learn how to develop self-compassion so that when you feel those things, you can sit with yourself, talk through it with yourself, and then shift that energy into things that are giving you life rather than taking your life. And that's a beautiful thing, man. Be kind to yourself. Recognize that it's okay to not have everything figured out and that you're allowed to grow at your own unique pace. It is okay to feel envious. It's okay to have those feelings and emotions of jealousy and comparison. What's not okay is to let them dictate every aspect of our life, right? That's when you fall into a trap, and it keeps you in this cycle constantly over time, and all it does is compound, right? All it does is compound, all it does is compound. So learn how to sit with your emotions, right? Treat them as a friend, right? Sometimes you and your friends get into arguments, and that's okay. But because you guys are so close and you guys are good friends, you guys come back, you have a good conversation, you dap it up, give each other a hug, and you keep on moving forward, right? You keep on moving forward. But that can only happen when you're friends with somebody. If you're not friends with somebody and y'all get into an argument, you never want to talk to them again because I don't care about that person. That's how it is with your emotions. If every time your emotions come up and you don't like the way you feel, that you just neglect them and then try to go find something else, you never sit with them and navigate them and show them that, hey, like, I know that we feel this way, but let's figure out another way that is more aligned with our path. Yo, that is a recipe to feel stressed, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, not worthy. That is what you're doing. You're creating a recipe to feel the way you don't want to feel because you're not willing to sit with your emotions. So you got to learn that first. And the beautiful thing about it is this is what community is for, I'm constantly going through this journey, and I know there's so many of you watching that are constantly going through this journey. We're meant to do it together, right? It's not about, who can get there first, or, if you get there, I don't know. We are all on our own unique journey, It's about embracing our own unique journey. And through that uniqueness and through our differences, that's actually where we can collaborate. That's actually where you can collaborate. The greatest teams are full of people that understand their role and play it to the best of their ability with the bigger picture in mind, right? Let's take basketball, for instance, right? If you get a team full of players who all want to have the ball in their hand, all want to be the point guard, all want to bring the ball up, all that's going to cause is more tension. All that's going to cause is more stress on the team. All that's going to cause is more rigidity between the players, right? But the best teams are the teams that everybody puts their egos to the side and they figure out what role does the team need from them in order to get to the greater vision of the success of the whole, right? And those are the best teams to be a part of. Those are the best teams to be a part of. And if you look at the NBA, every team that wins is full of everybody knowing how to play their role. Yes, from the outside perspective, it may look like the superstar has a bigger role than the role players that, are on the bench or come off the bench or the ones that don't score as much. But that's the illusion, right? Y'all need to understand, like a LeBron James. Yes, he's amazing, and he is, to me, he's the GOAT. But the reason he was able to operate is because he understands his role as a leader, as somebody who, can really take control over a team. But he also understands the importance of every single player around him. That's why he makes every single player around him better. Because without them, he wouldn't be able to do what's best for the team as well. So it's this congruence, right? But when you have a team full of egos and everybody wants to be the leader and everybody wants to have the ball and everybody wants to score all the time, those teams never win, ever. They don't. They literally don't. So what makes y'all think that that's how we should live life in society? We need to learn how to all play our own unique role, and in that, we all eat. We all win. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. The greatest companies are full of people who come together, and they all have unique gifts, and they share those gifts for a greater vision, for a greater purpose. And those are the companies that grow to be the biggest and the most influential in the world, right? Yes, you may see the founder's face, but that founder, if you really listen to interviews and you watch podcasts and all that, they will tell you consistently, I would not be here without the team. I would not be here without the people who are a part of the organization that you guys don't see. And I'm not going to lie, those people are damn near more important than the person who gets all the shine, right? But love doesn't worry about who's getting the shine. Love worries about the mission. Love worries about the greater purpose, right? So you need to ask yourself, are you worried about getting the shine and getting the validation, or are you worried about the greater vision and purpose of the collective? That's a real conversation you need to have within yourself. It really is, because, and here's the crazy thing, right? When that's the false trap that we've created, that if you're not getting the shine, then, you don't have influence, you don't have power, or you're losing power. That's so not true. So not true. When you really start operating from a place of love and authenticity and gratitude and collaboration, you get elevated 100x, right? Because now you don't feel like everybody around you is competition. You feel like everybody around you is a gateway to more love, to more abundance, to more collaborating, right? And now the world becomes one big team rather than, man, I got to compete against everybody around me. Man, that is draining to feel like every single day you wake up, you got to compete with the next man every single day. That is very, very draining. Very draining. And when you really understand that, oh, wait, I'm a one of one and I have a gift that literally nobody else on this earth has, why would I compete with somebody else? Excuse me. Why would I compete with somebody else, right? And here's the thing about gifts. Let's get into that. A lot of people think that their gift, excuse me, I don't know why my voice keeps messing up. A lot of people think that their gift is the external thing, right? Oh, LeBron James's gift is playing basketball. Steph Curry's gift is shooting, or whatever it is, right? The gift lies in your authentic self right there. how that gift of you being true to yourself expresses itself is going to look different. And that's the beauty in it, right? Not everybody's gift is going to express itself on a basketball court. Not everybody's gift is going to express itself through doing music or doing art or being an actor or being a teacher or being a programmer or being a engineer, whatever it is, right? Not everybody's gift is going to express itself in the same way. So a lot of people are constantly looking for their gift in external physical things. Your gift is you tapping into your authentic self and operating from that place. Now it doesn't matter what avenue, what career, what genre of life you're in, you're always going to bring your gift because you are the gift, right? And the gift comes out through your passions. How do you find your passions? Find things you love to do. Find things you love to do, right? LeBron and Steph Curry, they love to play basketball. So their gift of them being truly who they are is expressing themselves through something they love to do. It's very hard to express your gift through something that you hate to do, right? That's why so many people are constantly feeling miserable and they are suffering because they are trying to find their gift in something that they hate to do. It does not work, right? It don't work. It don't. And so start to, and that's how you have to view it, right? The passion will be attracted to you based off of you operating in your most truest, authentic self, right? That's the gift. The gift is life. The gift is I get to go down this journey every single day of figuring out who I am and tapping into my unique light, right? My unique frequency, right? And then seeing what this beautiful world has to offer from that place, right? That's why not everybody desires to play basketball. Not everybody desires to be a teacher. Not everybody desires to be a doctor or to be an engineer, right? Or to be a professor, right? Or to be a coach, right? That's why. But we're constantly neglecting our gift, which is our truest authentic self. And we're trying to find it in an external thing. But you have to understand an external thing will never bring you your gift because your gift is something that lies within yourself. I really hope this is making sense to y'all because it's making a lot of sense to me and it's helping me even understand things deeper because I remember I was constantly trying to find the external thing that was going to bring me that feeling of fulfillment and contentment and peace. And then I realized, oh, that feeling is only cultivated from an emotion that lies within myself. And when I tap into my authentic self and I start to root myself in love every day, I'm going to feel what it feels like to live out my gifts, right? Because now the external world is going to start bringing things into your life to enhance that gift, right? To enhance that gift. And you'll know what's for you and what's not for you real quick. You'll know what's for you and what's not for you real quick. As I've started to move towards this path and move more into a posture of being authentic and rooting myself in love, it has been very evident very quickly what things I gravitate towards and what things I do not, right? And it's very liberating, too, when you start to really move into that space and then you realize all the things that you were once chasing after that really are not aligned with the gift that you've cultivated within yourself. And now you don't have to chase after these things. You can actually just start to move through life gracefully and then start to allow that gift to resonate with certain things and just start operating in those places. That is a beautiful thing, yo. It's a beautiful thing, right? It's a beautiful thing. Now, here's the thing. Physical stress will lead to emotional distress. I'm going to say that again. Physical stress will lead to emotional distress. Intentional physical stress will lead to emotional distress. This is why self-improvement is so important, right? So important. A lot of people only focus on the physical and neglect the mental, emotional, and spiritual. Some people only focus on the spiritual but neglect their physical and mental and emotional. Some people only focus on mental and neglect their physical and spiritual, right? They all work in unison. Self-improvement and personal development is in every area of your life. Now, you can start with one, but you have to understand that the goal is to start giving attention and energy to all aspects of your life, not just one. A lot of us get into this trap of developing only one part of ourselves. You're meant to develop all parts of yourself. That's what makes you feel whole, right? You'll never feel enough if you're constantly only focused on one part of yourself, right? Imagine if you only went to the gym and only hit upper body for the rest of your life and never touched your legs. From the outside, you would not look right and you wouldn't feel the rest, right? You would not feel the best. Excuse me. Alarm went off. You would not feel the best. That means I only got a few minutes left because I have a car. But anyway, right, we're gonna start wrapping it up. So really go down that journey of developing all parts of yourself and watch how things start to cultivate for you. And the last thing is just surround yourself with supportive people. Surround yourself with people that make you feel good, right? That really make you feel aligned, that help you not to fall into the trap of jealousy, comparison, and competition with everybody around. Find people that see something in you that you may not see in yourself, right? And that want to help you cultivate that. And what that's going to make you do is going to want to make you help them cultivate that. That's a beautiful relationship. That's what a partnership is supposed to be, right? So really be intentional with who you spend your time with. Be intentional with what you're watching, with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, where your attention goes, because where your attention goes, energy follows. And understand that it's going to be okay. And continue to cultivate your path and watch what happens around you. Watch what happens around you. So, appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And most importantly, remember to take everything with a grain of salt. I will see you guys next week. Definitely wanted to go more into this episode, but I left my SD card at the crib, and so I had to use the one here, and this one only has like 35 minutes of space, or 38 minutes of space, so I gotta wrap it up, y'all. I gotta wrap it up, but it's okay, because I'm probably I'll be back next week. That's that simple. I'll be back next week, so appreciate y'all, love y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all next week. We gone.